Good evening, and welcome to the May 8th, 2018 regular City Council meeting. Before we begin the meeting, let me review the procedures for the meeting. The audience is reminded that this is a business meeting of the City Council. Therefore, clapping, cheering, and outbursts are not permitted. Speakers must complete a request to speak form located at the entrance to the council chamber. Submit your completed form to either the city clerk or the sergeant at arms. When your name has been called, use the microphone at the lectern on the audience's right and state your name and address. If you do not wish to publicly state your street address, you may state only your city or unincorporated Brevard County. Speak to City Council as a body. Do not address the mayor and City Council members individually. Be mindful of the timer at the front of the room and wrap up your comments before your speaking time ends. The following time limits will generally apply. Speaking times may be varied by the mayor with the approval of City Council. Public comments, most agenda items, and the consent agenda up to 3 minutes. Items designated as a public hearing and petitions, remonstrances, and communications up to 5 minutes. An applicant, representative, or person who has legal standing to support or oppose a quasi-judicial matter will be permitted enough time as reasonably determined by the City Council to create a record before the City Council. These matters generally include site plan, plat, zoning of property, conditional use, variance, building-related permit or appeal, abandon and vacate request, annexation, and other applications of law to specific properties. So thank you for joining us this evening, and we'll begin the invocation with Pastor Bob Brooks from the First Christian Church of Melbourne. If you wish to participate in the invocation, please stand.
Shall we pray together? God of abundance, we thank you. We thank you for your many and abundant blessings. We thank you for life itself and for our health and for sustenance and friendship. Lord, you have asked us to honor and respect our governing authorities and to work together to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, I pray a blessing upon our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, for our police and our first responders, and tonight especially for our council. I ask that you graciously grant them wisdom to govern, a thirst for justice and rightness for all of our neighbors, whether they be gay or straight, black or white, Hispanic or Asian or Muslim or Jew or Hindu or Sikh or atheist. And that you call upon our leaders to respect and protect the least among us. Dear Lord, I pray for each person individually, for their lives, and that they would find joy in their task. And I pray for the agenda that you set before them this evening. Please give them an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit all of those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Melbourne. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Brooks. And if you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The A3 roll call, Mr. McEwen.
Councilmember Lopez.
Here.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Moore is sick and will not be here this evening. Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Here.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Here.
Mayor Meehan.
Here. A4 is proclamations and presentations, and I have two. Thank you, Kathy. First is the Women's Lung Week proclamation of May 8th, 2018. Accepting is Elena Delgado. Oh, very good. A volunteer manager of the American Lung Association. Thank you for being here. Welcome. All right. Proclamation, City of Melbourne, Florida, whereas every 7+ minutes a woman in the United States loses her battle with lung cancer. And whereas lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths for women and men in the United States. And whereas advocacy and increased awareness will result in screening and early detection for people with lung cancer, ultimately saving more lives. And whereas public support for research funding is critical to a future where lung disease no longer threatens the health of our families and friends. And whereas Lung Force is the national initiative led by the American Lung Association to defeat lung cancer. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor, City of Melbourne, Florida, Brevard County, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 6th through the 12th, 2018 as Women's Lung Health Week in the City of Melbourne, and encourage all citizens to learn more about the detection and treatment of lung cancer and lung-related issues. Witness my hand and the seal of the City of Melbourne this 8th day of May, 2018. Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor. Congratulations. Okay, next is National Safe Boating Week, accepted by Robert Trebell from the Flotilla Commander of 17-2, 7th Coast Guard District. Welcome. You're here every year. Yeah, it's good to see you. Proclamation, City of Melbourne, Florida, whereas each year more Americans choose recreational boating as an ideal way to relax with their families and friends. And whereas it is essential that both novice and experienced boaters practice safe boating habits, which include participating in a safe boating course, ensuring that the vessel has proper equipment, and that all passengers wear a life jacket and avoid the use of alcohol. And whereas every year hundreds of lives are lost in boating accidents, the number of fatalities can be reduced and boating made more pleasurable if boaters would exercise knowledge, care, and courtesy necessary for safe boating. And whereas the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary focuses on boating safety with emphasis on vessel safety examinations and public education, and whereas the South Brevard Flotilla 1702 United States Coast Guard Auxiliary annually provides boating safety courses and vessel safety examinations at Ballard Park. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, do hereby proclaim May 19th through the 25th, 2018 as National Safe Boating Week in the City of Melbourne, and encourage all citizens who use our waterways to take advantage of the programs offered and acquire the skills and knowledge essential to practice safe boating. Witness my hand and the seal of the City of Melbourne this 8th day of May, 2018. Kathleen H. Meehan, Mayor. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Did you want to say a few words?
I wanted to thank the mayor and the city council members for again doing the proclamation for National Safe Boating Week. Yes. So the Coast Guard Auxiliary, we're a volunteer branch of the Coast Guard, so we do exactly the same thing the Coast Guard does except for policing activities. We're established in 1939 by an act of Congress. We're 26,000 members strong. Last year we did 3.8 million hours of community service and direct support of the Coast Guard in three main areas. We do education, boating education classes. We do vessel exams on the local piers and docks like Ballard Park. And we also do surface operations directly with the Coast Guard. And those are, we have 1,800 vessels, 160 aircraft, and 1,400 radio facilities. So we're kind of a force multiplier for the Coast Guard. And we look at boating deaths every year. And the last year, again, Florida led the country in deaths, 70 deaths. 80% of those were drownings, and 83% of those cases, the victims, the people were not wearing life jackets. So the number one thing you can do is wear your life jacket. All right. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Right. All right, next is A5, approval of the minutes of April 24th, 2018. Council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor, so move.
Ms. Lopez, second by,
I'll second.
all right, by Ms. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 6 is the city manager's report. Mr. McNeese.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything to add tonight to the report.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Next is public comments on item 7. All right, let me guess. Okay, Eric Ellebrock.
Good evening. It's happened again. Back in 1982, I took the Coast Guard Auxiliary Basic Seamanship Program and the Captain's Program, and this was a long time ago. I was 18 years old, and I've been in and out on the river, and that program saved my butt several times. Again, PFDs are extremely important. You got to, if you're out there, you got to have them. Just dropped in to see what shape my city's in, and I'm optimistic. We are in much better shape than the federal government. Yeah, we've got a few people who are telling untruths. Yeah, we've got some funds that are kind of but nothing to $130,000 payments to adult entertainment, sex workers. Nothing compared to an inappropriate line. When the city of Melbourne, makes a comment or a statement or a public address, you can take that to the bank. It's not going to change. Wish you could say it for the same for the federal government. Enough on that comment. Let's get back down to what's going on here in the city. I've come up here several times and talked about the heroin issues in our city. MPD is making a valiant and aggressive, and they're doing a damn good job trying to wipe out the heroin dealers. But of course, it's like trying to spray cockroaches at 4 o'clock in the morning when the light goes on at a house off of Tyler, mine. It's kind of difficult. The problem is, one of the greatest tools for enforcing any type of drug laws is the confidential informant. The confidential informant is basically the FBI uses it, everybody uses it. Basically what it is somebody who's accused and or possibly going to be convicted of a small crime and asked to testify against those of larger crimes. The problem is MPD has been using people as CIs who are totally heroin addicts. The problem with that is when you're a heroin addict, your credibility is questionable. The constant story is not going to come from you because you are mentally impaired by the drug. I would like it become policy of the Melbourne Police Department. Now, there are state laws who address this issue. There are state laws. There have been several incidences where CIs, who were busted for things like possession of marijuana end up getting killed because they're asked to testify against bigger things. There's state laws that address this. But I want it to become MPD policy that if the slightest suspicion that the confidential informant is a drug abuser, he's actively using a narcotic, he's actively sticking needles in his arms, that they not use him. It's bad for everybody involved, and it's bad for MPD. It's bad for the city. And I know it's difficult to find somebody who's willing to rat out, their dealer when they're not drug addicts. But that's just something we have to overcome. We cannot continue the way we are. We are having serious issues in the courts with people who are being asked to testify as CIs because their credibility is questioned because they're sticking needles in their arms. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hallibrook. All right, that's it for public comments. We'll go into unfinished business, B8, request to abandon and vacate A&V number 369, a 585-foot portion of the Sun Lakes Road right-of-way, which was postponed. And this is under engineering, Miss Jenny Lamb.
Yes, the applicant is the owner of 520 Sun Lakes Road and is requesting to vacate 580 feet of a 40-foot wide unimproved right-of-way located along his southern property line. The purpose is to prevent pedestrian and vehicular access through and to his property. On February 27th of this year, City Council postponed the item and requested that staff explore alternative solutions to protect the interests that the applicant, Mr. Brian Daigle, expressed during the meeting. One of the items was, can the city regulate access to this right-of-way? And as part of your agenda packet, there is a memo in there from our city attorney's office. And in fact, the city can regulate access to the unimproved, unopened city right-of-way, and we can legally trespass people from this area. Another item that was brought up there were several items brought up during that discussion, and a couple of the items were regarding the eagles. We have researched that to the extent of we do not have plans right now to build a road, and so we don't have construction plans to go to the agencies about that. But we have determined that linear construction, which is what a road would be considered, is allowed within 660 feet of the Eagle's Nest exclusionary zone, and that only outside of nesting season. And so at the time that we decide to proceed forward with the design, or before we even got to that part of design, we would take more information with a concept plan to the governing agencies on Eagles so that we make sure that we can, in fact, build the road at that time. We do know that we would have to only do construction within that zone outside of nesting season. And that we want to make very clear from staff's perspective, we do not want to disturb the Eagle with the construction of that road. The stormwater piping and structures that we talked about, when we went out to inspect those structures again, we did find, though not related to this A&V, we did find that someone was had connected to that piping without permission. And to me, that sort of reinforces the idea that the subdivision whose piping it is and the city need to be able to get in and view that piping. And an easement would provide for that, but it's right of way up to that point, and it makes sense to keep it right of way up to the point of the sewer or of the stormwater manhole. Another question that was asked was, what is the potential for development of this property? So engineering got with community development, and we found that the several uses have been discussed with the community development staff dating back to 2011. And some of the items that were brought up and discussed on if they could occur or not on this property was a single family residence, a campground type facility with sleeping cabins, gardens, communal kitchen, and a platted single family subdivision with up to 6 units per acre. To talk a little more about the east-west corridor roadway, as I already said, it's not something that we are planning to do tomorrow. It's not something that we even have funded in our 5-year plan. However, doing that allows for a corridor to connect from Lipscomb Street all the way to Hollywood. It is something that is in our comprehensive plan as a roadway. It does show on the various plats that were with South Lakes and Eagle Lake East. In fact, the road is already paved as part of South Lakes and Eagle Lake, and then Tarpon Road, or Tarpon Way, is also part of that east-west collector roadway. The history of that right-of-way dates back to 1912, and it was acquired over different times. More recently, in 2000, is the actual piece of property that we're looking to vacate. It was deeded to the city for the sole purposes of right-of-way. Let me see what other points for here that I need to hit on. I do need to bring up that the sections of code, and I talked about this at the last meeting, the applicable criteria in City Code Section 52-99 has not been met, since there is a likelihood that the right-of-way or easement may be needed by the city for that east-west corridor. Furthermore, the items 1, 2, and 4 of section 52-100 are not met with the application, and that is why staff is recommending denial of the abandonment and vacation of the Sun Lake Roads right-of-way. I do want to state on the record here that if council is inclined to vacate the right-of-way and ask us to proceed forward with the ordinance and to bring that back, that we should also bring a comp plan amendment so that we can eliminate this as an east-west corridor from that comp plan. That way, if once it's out of the comp plan, then we would not be violating or we would meet those sections of code that allow us to abandon and vacate.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb?
Madam Mayor?
Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, Jeannie, great job. You know, it amazes me because, you know, you're not just doing engineering stuff. All the variables that you have to consider on a simple engineering task, you know, the environment, animal habitat. And so obviously y'all have looked at everything, and that's just to name a few. I mean, there's lots more I'm sure that you have to look into. And so I appreciate the in-depth staff work that you've done. And, you know, eagles are resilient animals, and I'm sure they're going to be fine. And I appreciate even the consideration you're doing there as far as when you're going to start doing the construction and then what additional steps you'll take to make sure that they're safeguarded. So great work, and I appreciate it.
All right, any other questions? All right, I do have a sign-up sheet. Mr. Brian Daigle, the applicant.
Mayor, I would respectfully ask for additional time.
Yes, sir.
I also would like to ask for I don't know where this goes, but how's that? Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council, and staff, thank you for your time and attention to my request. I'm proud to be a resident and appreciate your public service. You are my elected representatives, and in your wisdom, you have appointed competent professionals with specialized skills. I can appreciate the importance and enumerated requirements of good community planning as I work in the industry as well. Your staff has recommended denying my request to vacate the right-of-way based on the premise of a connector road that may or may not be constructed in the future. I respect your staff's recommendation with the following caveat. Please table my request so that your staff can initiate the proper and appropriate studies to accomplish the following. 1, that a complete dossier be created of historical records regarding the planning, studies, and plats justifying the proposed connection road formed and made available to you, the council, and the affected property owners. 2, that the regional traffic study be initiated to determine the effectiveness of the entire proposed corridor alignment and its benefits to the region network. 3, that the revised environmental study be initiated on the entire proposed alignment. Number 4, that a cost feasibility analysis be conducted for the entire proposed corridor alignment to include cooperation of the Space Coast Transit Planning Authority if necessary. And 5, that if and then the revised and current studies of the cost feasibility analysis demonstrate that the new corridor is justified, then the corridor be included within the city's capital improvement plan, be included within the city's budget, city funds be appropriated thereto, and the new corridor be properly documented within the city's comprehensive plan. These aforementioned 5 actions would ensure that the proposed corridor would be more than an idea or a concept, but in fact a legally defensible reason to deny my application. I am a property rights advocate. I wish to protect our natural resources and a very special eagle's nest. I believe in efficient transportation planning and being a good steward of the city's taxpayers' money. I presume you do as well. Your staff may be correct, as to certainly for me, my neighbors, the eagles, and the thousands of residents that could possibly be positively or negatively affected by the conceptual connector road may only be fully understood and realized based on the implementation of the 5 criteria previously noted. Government cannot restrict the rights of residents based on a hypothetical what if. We are a nation of laws, excuse me. A project is not a project based on intent alone. Action must follow and be carried through. A corridor is not a corridor based on hearsay and an ambiguous line on a map. To conclude, please table my request to vacate this right-of-way and instead direct staff to initiate the appropriate studies. Should you not direct staff to initiate the appropriate studies, or if the studies do not justify and lead to codifying the new corridor, then and only then will I stand before you again with the request to vacate this right-of-way. Thank you for your wise consideration, and I would also request that a copy of this statement be added into the public record. And just to let you know what we're talking about, this is the one document, and I've tried. I've talked to city manager. I went to the official request at the clerk's office. This is the only document that proves or backs up the staff's recommendation that there's a corridor there. And that exhibit is very arbitrary. That's all I have.
All right, any questions for Mr. Daigle? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Daigle. Good job, Dave. You're out of order, Mr. Ellebrock, and I won't say that again. Okay, so I will close the public hearing and bring it back to council. What is your pleasure? Item number 8.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Thomas.
denial of the abandon and vacate request for a 580-foot portion of Sun Lake Road, Avenue number 369.
Second.
All right, discussion. This is second reading, and it's going to require a roll call. I have quasi-judicial. All right, any disclosures? Seeing none?
Mayor,
Ms. Minus.
okay,
Vice Mayor Minus.
I don't have the exact dates, but I was copied on several emails between Mr. Daigle and Ms. Jenny Lamb, okay, in the last week. I don't have those, but I am declaring that.
Okay, all
Okay,
right,
just copied on those emails.
okay. All right, any further discussion? All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Thomas for denial of the abandon and vacate request for 585 feet portion of Sun Lakes Road, and second by Ms. Thomas. All right, so we're gonna require a roll call vote. Are we on second reading?
Nope.
No, all right, so we'll just do a vote. All right, those in favor of the denial, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye, nose aye.
All right, so
I vote aye.
you vote aye for the denial?
Yes.
Okay, and everybody else did? All right, and I'll vote aye, and the motion passes for denial. Item number 9 is ordinance number 2018-16 and ordinance number 2018-17 Cumberland Farms. Miss Allison Dolly.
Yes, 2018-16, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, amending the official zoning map as it relates to the general zoning ordinance number 2005-120 by changing the zoning classification from CCP, Commercial Parkway with a conditional use for a planned commercial development of more than 3 acres to C2, general commercial, on a 1.67 plus or minus acre portion of an overall 15.08 plus or minus acre property located on the southwest corner of Sarno Road and Apollo Boulevard, providing an effective date and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is
I have a second one. Should I read the second one now?
All right, yes.
Ordinance number 2018-17, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, amending the official zoning map as it relates to the general zoning ordinance number 2005-120 by granting a conditional use to allow the development of a convenience store with gas pumps on a 1.67 plus or minus acre portion of an overall 15.08 plus or minus acre property zone C2, general commercial, located on the southwest corner of Sarno Road and Apollo Boulevard, providing for site plan approval, providing for conditions of approval, providing that the conditional use granted herein may be revoked by City Council if the conditions of approval are not met, providing that the property shall be designated on the official zoning map by the symbol CC2, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under Community Development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, staff did not have anything additional to add upon second reading.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer? All right, this is quasi-judicial. Any disclosures? Seeing none. This is a public hearing. I do have a sign-up sheet. Mr. Dan Perez from Atkins, N.A. He is the applicant for Cumberland Farms.
Yes. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, any questions for Mr. Perez? All right, very good. You answered it all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I will close the public hearing, bring it back to council, and we'll vote separately. What is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Yeah, Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of ordinance number 2018-16 based upon the findings contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-16 by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, this is second reading, going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item B9B.
Mayor,
Yeah, Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of ordinance number 2018-17 with site plan approval SP 2018-01 based upon the findings and conditions contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-17 with site plan approval by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Ms. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, this is second reading. It's going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 10 is ordinance number 2018-18, Constellation Commons. Miss Allison Dolly.
Yes, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, amending the official zoning map as it relates to the general zoning ordinance number 2005-120 by changing the zoning classification from CP Commercial Parkway to C2 General Commercial on 7.63 plus or minus acres located on the west side of Wickham Road, south of Constellation Drive, and north of Summerbrook Street, providing an effective date and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under Community Development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, nothing further to add on second reading.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer? Seeing none, this is quasi-judicial. Do I have any disclosures? Seeing none. This is a public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? I have no sign-up sheets, and I will close the public hearing, bring it back to council.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Thomas.
request approval of ordinance number 2018-18 based upon the findings contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-18 by Mr. Thomas, second by Ms. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, this is going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 11 is ordinance number 2018-19, the Melbourne Downtown Hotel. Miss Allison Dolly.
Yes, an ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, amending the official zoning map as it relates to the general zoning ordinance number 2005-120 by granting a conditional use to allow a building height of 123 feet, an additional 27 feet, for the development of an 11-story hotel on a 0.57 plus or minus acres of property, zone CC3, Central Business District, with a conditional use for an additional building height located on the southeast corner of Strawbridge Avenue and Waverly Place, providing for site plan approval, providing for conditions of approval, providing that the conditional use granted herein may be revoked by City Council if the conditions of approval are not met, providing that the property shall be designated on the official zoning map by the symbol CC3, providing an effective date and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under Community Development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, nothing else to add on second reading this evening.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer?
Nope.
All right, this is quasi-judicial. Any disclosures?
None.
Seeing none, this is a public hearing. I have several sign-up sheets. First is Miguel Rivera, and she's available for any questions. Or he's available for any questions. Any questions? All right, so no questions. Okay. Eric Ellebrock.
Ma'am, if I could go last, I'd appreciate it.
No, sir, you will go next. That's the order I have it.
Whatever, however you want to do it, ma'am. I just thought I'd ask.
Okay.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. The city of Melbourne should not be in the real estate business. Remember, the lot we're building on this is, basically partially owned by the city because somebody gave it to us. That's what it boils down to. Think about what you're doing here. We're not talking a little Cumberland Farms. We're not talking a small building here that 30, 40 years now can be raised real quick and something else put there. We're talking an 11-story building. I think the initial impact with the hotel and all that would be initially cool. However, the construction of it, maybe 2-3 years, is going to it's going to cause problems in downtown. You can't get around that. When you're building this big of a building, there's going to be construction problems, reference traffic, blah, blah, dust, whatever. But the initial thing, it'd be really cool. We're going to have a really first-class restaurant, really nice hotel where people can come and hang out and have affairs and this sort of stuff. And the city of Melbourne has a great place for all the employees to go have lunch. And I'll bet you they'll have a banquet room that we can use a lot. That'll be just downtown. They'll love it. What I'm asking you to think about is 60 years from now, when we're all dead, okay? When downtown has gone through its another down phase, the hookers will love it. This is a major building. Now, we're not going to get into the girls from Backstreet loving it now or the girls from Canada who are going to love it as soon as it's built. We're not going to get into that because what this is built, this is going to be basically, how should I put it? A warm sheet hotel. However, let's get right down to it. 60 years from now, we've got an 11-story building here that's going to be in, God knows who's going to own it. It might go condo, but think about the impact. Another 11-story. We've got enough problems with the high rises now that are becoming, I'm not even going to talk about Trinity Towers. The problems are the thing will get old. And when you start tearing down 60 years from now, God knows they might have some sort of adamant disintegrate ray. But I'm trying to tell you, this does not set in. If it was a smaller boutique hotel, okay. But this does not fit in with the downtown area. Waverly Place, for God's sakes, it's right there in the heart. You're building a huge building. It's going to have some major impact. But what my concern is, what is it going to be like 60 years from now when my generations, because I'm a son of Bavard and I think about the future, my kin are going to still be here. They're going to have to deal with this shit. Thank you.
All right, next is Mark Herendeen.
Hi, good evening, Mark Herendeen, Melbourne, Florida. I don't have the same long remarks I had before, so it's a watered-down version. First of all, please vote unanimously to approve the hotel project. And second, many of us have waited so very long for an economically dynamic project like this. There is no doubt that Naomi and Miguel are going to break ground and the hotel will get her CO. The Tapestry Collection by Hilton Hotels through Willow Street Capital and her partners will undoubtedly bring an increasingly renewed sense of economic improvement and revitalization into the center of an energetic, walkable neighborhood that is downtown Melbourne. It cannot be underscored enough how much our downtown Melbourne area needs this hotel, the positive attention that it will bring, the new patrons it will bring, the added public parking, all the while substantiating to the commercial lending world that this place matters, that investing here is a fruitful endeavor with a return on that investment into downtown. Please vote yes to approve. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Herendeen. I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor.
All right, Vice Mayor Minus.
May we go back and I need to ask Ms.
Ms. Dittmer?
No, the applicant.
Okay, yes,
May I do that?
yes. All right, so I'll reopen, Mr. Rivera.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, last night I just was sitting in the audience and I was observing the meeting, the Citizens Advisory Board meeting, and I think you had mentioned that their hotel rates would be approximately 130 ballpark range.
That's what we're projecting, correct?
Okay, is that going to be annual? You know, we have off seasons, we have peak seasons when the snowbirds are here. What is that going to be just across the board, or
That's an annual
it's
rate.
going to vary?
So that's a projected average. Obviously, it will fluctuate depending on the season and the occupancy, high season, low season, midweek, weekend, and so forth.
Okay, may I ask, how did you come up with 130? What, about 89, 99? 109?
Yes, that is a great question. We have done an extensive market study, and part of what that entails is benchmarking and looking at what the performance is of existing hotels in the area. And we have composite data of all of the hotels that are currently operating. So we know what the overall average is. We have had interviews with a number of the GMs and sales managers, and spoken with a number of executives from the corporate entities that brand those hotels. And based on that, we have made a determination of what the current rates of the existing hotels are, and we have positioned the price point that we're looking to target based on the quality of the facility that we're building, its location, its target market, so that we are able to provide a competitive product that will present a clear value proposition for our guests, and that's the average annual rate that we feel will allow us to compete well and offer our guests a very attractive value proposition in order for them to stay with us.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you, Mayor.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
You're
All
welcome.
right, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What's
Mayor.
your pleasure? Vice Mayor Minus.
I move for approval of ordinance number 2018-19 with site plan approval, SB 2018-02, based upon the findings and conditions contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-19 as stated in council's package by Vice Mayor Minus, second by Ms. Thomas. Discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
a quick question. I guess financing for this project that will be discussed in future meetings? Okay,
Yes.
financing? Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, this is a second reading, going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas,
Aye.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas,
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus,
Aye.
Mayor Meehan.
And I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item all right. Officer, please have him removed.
Yep.
Item number 12 is ordinance number 2018-20, A and V number 382. Miss Allison Dolly.
Thank you. An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to the vacation of a 100-foot wide by 618-foot long right-of-way easement that runs along the north edge of property located south of O'Galley Boulevard, east of Mosswood Drive, and west of Sun Circle, 1245 O'Galley Boulevard, making findings, providing for conditions of approval, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is engineering, Miss Jenny Lamb.
I wanted to point out that while during first reading, we did say that this request was in conjunction with the preliminary plat for Hidden Harbor Estates, I do want to point out that regardless of who develops that property or how it is developed at some point, that this abandon and vacate request is needed to clean up the additional right-of-way that is actually there with the O'Galley Boulevard right-of-way that was somehow turned over to the city. So staff still recommends approval of ordinance number 2018-20.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb? All right, this is quasi-judicial. Any disclosures?
Ma'am,
All right,
Mayor, I do.
Mr.
Actually,
Alfrey.
I met with Mr. Moya, I believe it was yesterday, I believe it was yesterday. And I actually wanted to bring in a comment. I know last meeting we voted denial of that ordinance. One of the reasons I voted no was I was concerned about the Aurora Road scaling down and the traffic issues. Talking with the TPO, there's not going to be that now. It's going to remain 4 lanes, and they're going to resurface it. So I would actually like to bring that back up on the agenda for the next meeting for another vote on that.
Okay.
Ms. Dolly?
I think that you still need to make a decision based on the AMV that's here. And then once you resolve that, I can explain the process. Basically, what I understand that you're saying is you want to initiate a motion to rescind. But there are 2 ways to do that. You can do it tonight and base it on receive the majority of 2/3 of the vote of council, or notify council that you'd like to bring it to the next meeting on the 22nd, and then it would merely require a majority vote. So that would be your option, which one you'd want to do.
Well,
either notify or actually make the motion.
Right, and that's why I wanted to bring it up during the disclosures, and instead of rescinding it, which would cause the supermajority vote, bring it back up for just for the majority. So that's why I wanted to go that route.
All right. This is a public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? No, I will close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Thomas.
I move for approval of ordinance number 2018-20.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-20 by Ms. Thomas, second by Vice Mayor Minus. Discussion? All right, so this is going to require a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Councilmember Tim Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Debbie Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Alfrey?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Minus?
Aye.
Mayor Meehan?
I vote aye and the motion passes. All right, so you want to make another motion?
Yeah, I'll
to-
make a motion to bring that back up for the next meeting,
Okay,
the ordinance.
Second.
all right.
Yeah, sure, go.
I'm so sorry. I think the way that this would happen is sometimes the Robert's Rules of Order don't really match quasi-judicial decisions that you're going to make. So you have to keep in mind that under a quasi-judicial decision, to have a rehearing, we would need to do the advertising, which requires 15 days notice. So
Okay.
just to be aware, I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. You're providing the notice that you're going to do your motion to rescind at the next meeting on the 22nd. But then to actually rehear the matter, we would have to go through those advertising requirements, which will be at least 15 days later, at least, because we have to give P&Z Community Development time to get those notices out. So I just want to keep everybody on the same page with that. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Thomas.
So if we decided to do it this evening, do the motion to rescind this evening, we would have to have what kind of vote at this point? Tonight? 2/3. Thank you.
All right, so I have a motion to rescind. Do I need?
No.
I'm sorry. There's only 6 here tonight, so I have 4.
Okay, 4 votes.
Okay, then if that's the case, that's right, because Ms. Moore is
Right.
feeling ill. So,
Would you be
no,
willing?
I'll go ahead and make the motion to rescind then.
And I would second that.
All right, so I have a motion to rescind by Mr. Alfrey, second by Ms. Thomas. Any further discussion? Is
And one
everybody
more,
clear?
Mayor, and one more, may I say one more
Yeah.
thing, Mayor?
All right.
I
Mr.
will
Alfrey.
tell you during the meeting, they satisfied the project, looking at what they're doing on Mosswood, putting a sidewalk in. There is gonna be no exit out on Mosswood. One of the things concerned was the traffic. There's only gonna be 25 townhomes as opposed to over by O'Galley where there's several hundred of them. So again, that's the reason that, and my biggest concern was the diet down of Aurora and then pushing traffic on O'Galley. That not happening now, I'd have to go with the project. I just want to lay that out on the table and let everybody know that's why I'm changing my vote.
Mayor,
Yeah, Ms.
I
Lopez.
can't approve that. I'm meeting with the developer this coming Wednesday, and until I meet with him, I'm not persuaded yet on this project.
All right, Ms. Thomas.
I approved it last time. I think it's a terrific project, and I will vote yes again.
Okay.
Okay, Mayor.
Yeah, Vice Mayor Minus.
Okay, now we don't have to worry about the 15 days. Do we still have to worry about?
Yes.
Okay, if we're gonna bring it up next meeting, is it gonna be within the 15 days or?
So what would happen is if the council voted in favor of rescinding tonight, then the next meeting's in 14 days. Doesn't give us time to get the 15-day notice out. So we would work, staff would work to get it on the first meeting in June.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yeah.
So
Ms.
if we
Lopez.
vote yes for it today, then it's still coming in front of us,
Yes.
the whole thing all over again.
That's right, the whole thing
okay.
over again.
Okay,
And then,
I thought that we were going back to accepting this. That's what I mean, rescinding. Okay, so then I could agree with it.
Oh, okay, yeah, what
Okay.
we're doing is.
Then I don't have
we're,
a problem.
You know,
Backing out.
putting it
Okay.
back on the agenda, and of course, it has to do the proper 15-day notice, and so we're
Okay.
gonna listen to it again.
And Madam Mayor, I would just like to add and remind everyone that if you would go forward with the rescinding of the original order, it is still a hearing, a quasi-judicial hearing. It is critical that you don't have those outside conversations about the matter, and if you do, you have to disclose them. So make sure you're tracking when those are. That will need to be disclosed at the rehearing if you go that route.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
okay.
All right, so those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? And I vote aye, and the motion passes. So we will rescind and hear it again. Item C, new business, item 13. Let me go right to item 13. Is the construction contract award for the rehabilitation of 2 8-inch water main aerial crossings adjacent to Brandywine Lane to Shamrock Restoration Services of Brooksville, Florida. Miss Jenny Lamb.
3 bids were received for the Brandywine Lane 8-inch water main aerial crossing rehabilitation project on April 3rd. The low bidder was Shamrock doesn't look like, I'm sorry, Restoration Services of Brooksville, Florida. Shamrock was the company that did the rehabilitation of the aerial crossings on the Melbourne Causeway, and that project has been completed here. That happened within the last year, and we had satisfactory results with them. And the work for this project at Brandywine Lane consists of the cleaning and preparation of 2 different pipe crossings, and they will remove the old coating system and put the new coating system in. They say that it will last 10 to 15 years, but we did receive, I think, 20 years or over 20 years, I think 28 years with our past coating. So it does extend the life of the pipe significantly. And there is money in the project budget, the capital improvement project, so it's adequately funded. And so I recommend award of construction contract to Shamrock Restoration Services of Brooksville, Florida in the amount of $106,700 for the Brandywine Lane 8-inch water main.
Thank you, Ms. Lamb. Any questions for Ms. Lamb? All right, seeing none, council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor,
Ms. Lopez.
I motion to request the award of construction contract to Shamrock Restoration Service Incorporated of Brookville, Florida, in the amount of $106,700 for the Brandywine Lane 8-inch, is that inch? Yeah. Water main aerial crossing rehabilitation project number 316.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of item number 13 as stated in council's package by Ms. Lopez, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 14 is the consent agenda. I have nothing was withdrawn, so council, 14A through C, what is your pleasure?
Madam Mayor.
Ms. Thomas.
Move to approve item A through C.
Second.
All right, sorry, Mr. Thomas, you were, I should have said Mr. and said Miss.
That's okay.
So I have a motion by Ms. Thomas, second by Vice Mayor Minus, to approve the consent agenda A through C. Further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 16, ordinance number 2018-23, evaluation and appraisal review comprehensive plan amendments, CPA 2017-08AD. Ms. Allison Dolly.
An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, relating to comprehensive planning, making findings, amending Appendix D, Chapter 4, Section 4.04 of the City Code, amending the future land use, housing, and coastal management elements, the introduction and the future land use map of the comprehensive plan to add CPA 2017-08AD, evaluation and appraisal review amendments, major comprehensive plan amendments to implement amendments based on the city's 2016 evaluation and appraisal review notification letter to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, providing for severability, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under Community Development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is the first reading of an ordinance adopting the city's evaluation and appraisal review based comprehensive plan amendments. Every 7 years, the city is required to reevaluate its comprehensive plan to determine if it needs to be amended. Back in December of 2016, staff recommended that we amend the comprehensive plan. And then in November of 2017, council reviewed the proposed amendments. We sent those off to the Department of Economic Opportunity. They've now reviewed those and did not have any objections or comments to the proposed amendments. So they're before you this evening in ordinance form. The changes that are included within the ordinance amend the introduction, the future land use, the housing, and the coastal management elements of the comprehensive plan, along with the future land use map. The package also includes all the data analysis that was completed to make these changes. It changes the planning horizon out to the year 2040. It also includes new population projections for the city, a vacant land analysis, the projected land use demand that we will have in the future, and also the current land use and housing conditions based on the proposed projected population increase. The amendments will also include revisions and additions to the maps that are within our comprehensive plan. Particularly this evening, you'll be amending the future land use and the coastal management element maps. The Planning and Zoning Board did vote back in November to recommend approval of the request, and Council also recommended approval of the transmittal of these amendments back in November. And with that, staff would recommend approval ordinance number 2018-23 based upon the findings contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer? Wow, I want to note that in 2040, our population for residents is over 100,000, 236. I'm glad it's not a half. Wow. Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, council, this is public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? No, I will bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Mayor.
Ms. Thomas.
Move for approval of ordinance number 2018-23 based upon the findings contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-23 by Ms. Thomas, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item 17, ordinance number 2018-24, King's Car Wash. Ms. Allison Dolly.
An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, amending the official zoning map as it relates to the general zoning ordinance number 2005-120, by granting a conditional use to allow a single bay car wash on a 1.02 plus or minus acre parcel zone CP Commercial Parkway, located on the west side of Wickham Road, south of Constellation Drive and north of Summerbrook Street, 4860 North Wickham Road, providing for site plan approval, providing for conditions of approval, providing that the conditional use granted herein may be revoked by City Council if the conditions of approval are not met, providing that the property shall be designated on the official zoning map by the symbol CCP, providing an effective date and providing an adoption schedule.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under Community Development, Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is the first reading of an ordinance granting a conditional use to allow a car wash along with site plan approval on a 1.02 acre property located on the west side of North Wickham Road, south of Constellation Drive and north of Summerbrook Street. The applicant is proposing to develop on a lot that is in Constellation Commons that fronts along Wickham Road and proposing a standalone car wash use, which does require a conditional use approval in the CP zoning that is currently zoned. The lot does not have direct access to Wickham Road, but there are several cross-access agreements and easements through the property. As you can see in the yellow, the car wash is proposed here in the blue, and this is the 1.02 acre properties, and then it has access from multiple points within the shopping center. The car wash is proposing a 3,740 square foot building with 23 vacuum spaces, and a total of 33 parking spaces will be provided on the site. Within a 500-foot radius of the proposed car wash, the car wash abuts commercially zoned and used properties, and the closest residential structure is over 620 feet to the west behind the Constellation Commons Shopping Center. The Planning and Zoning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of this request, and staff would recommend approval ordinance number 2018-24 with site plan approval request for SB 2018-04 based upon the findings and conditions contained in the Planning and Zoning Board memorandum.
Thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer?
Just one question.
Yeah,
Madam Mayor.
Mr. Thomas.
Again, District 1, I'm excited about this business coming out. My only concern is about, because I know how busy car washes get, especially off Wickham Road. So you've got the Constitution Avenue there, or Constitution Road. There's a main egress and degress route in and out of there, right? But they're going to have to find access going across, what you just discussed. Is there a thought about putting maybe another egress route going out of the car wash that avoids Constitution? If not, there's just going to be a lot of traffic there.
So I'll sort of show you the traffic flow as they go through. So this is Wickham Road out here to the east. So they'll either be able to come in off of these two access points. There's one to the south here on Wickham Road. They'll also be able to come from Constellation to the north, and they'll be able to come through the shopping center. So once they come in this point, they come in, they pick the wash they want, and they go through the bay, and they come out here. What's typically happening in these newer car washes laid out is the people then turn here and will pull into the vacuum spaces. And so they'll have the opportunity to vacuum and then move on. They have then the option, there's many different directions they can go. They can go back out here internally into the shopping center. They can come back this way and exit onto Wickham Road. They can go back to the north and exit onto Wickham Road. So the ingress and egress overall for the site is very good. And we don't believe that the additional car wash in there is gonna cause any log jams in there. So.
Fantastic, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Thomas.
I just have to say, I have one of these car washes near where I live, and it is a terrific car wash to have. And the flow does go very smoothly, the way it comes in and comes out, and everybody's coming, even though there might be a line to get in to wash your car. Once it gets into vacuuming, everybody takes a different amount of time to clean out the interior of their car and vacuum. So I've never seen at the one I've been to that there's ever been any, backup of vehicles as they're trying to leave.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I like the idea that once you leave, you may want to go shopping.
Yeah.
So what's behind there? Is it a grocery store?
Currently there's the Goodwill new store, and honestly, I haven't driven up there myself lately. A Dollar Tree, and there's an Einstein's Bagel.
There.
Okay. And then The earlier the earlier rezoning that you approved will make way for the rest of the development of the shopping center that adds on to the Goodwill and the Dollar Tree back there.
Okay. All right, very good. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, council, let's see. This is quasi-judicial. Any disclosures?
No, none.
Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Do I have any sign-up sheets? I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure?
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Thomas.
recommend approval of ordinance number 2018-24 with a site plan approval request, SP 2018-04, based upon the findings and conditions contained in the Planning and Zone Board memorandum.
Second.
All right, I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-24 stated in council's package by Mr. Thomas, second by Ms. Lopez. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. Item number 18, ordinance number 2018-25, MC Test Services, Inc. Ms. Allison Dolly.
An ordinance of the City of Melbourne, Brevard County, Florida, revoking the economic development ad valorem tax exemption granted to MC Test Service, Inc. by ordinance number 2014-03, making a finding that the business has not fulfilled its employment and average wage commitments represented in the ad valorem tax exemption application, providing an effective date and providing an adoption.
Thank you, Ms. Dolly. This is under Community Development. Ms. Cindy Dittmer.
Yes, this is the first reading of an ordinance to revoke a tax exemption that was granted to MC Test Service, Inc. in 2014. As part of council's package, you can see that staff's completed the city's 2017 review of all of the current ongoing ad valorem tax abatements that have been granted. 4 of the 5 companies continue to meet their projected number of jobs and wages and capital. However, the staff evaluation did find that MC Test has failed to meet the representations that they made within their ABT application, which is the basis that council originally considers for approval of that. In 2017, staff did report that MC Test Service was not meeting its employment and told council we would watch it over the next year. Over this 3-year period now that they have moved into Melbourne, the company has failed to retain about approximately 220 of the jobs of the 540 that they committed. Just to refresh council's memory, this company was located in the city of Palm Bay, and they were granted the ABT to move into Melbourne because they were looking to move out of the state, out of the country at that time. Additionally, in addition to the jobs not being retained, the average wage has also decreased slightly from what was projected originally. So with that, staff is recommending approval ordinance number 2018-25.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dittmer. Any questions for Ms. Dittmer?
I have a question.
Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, I noticed that you didn't try to recapture the foregone taxes. So just curious, how often do y'all try to do that? If a company doesn't meet its requirements or its benchmarks, how often do you try to go back and recoup the taxes?
The city council has not ever gone back and tried to recoup any of those taxes. I'd say we've maybe done 4 or 5 revocation ordinances like this, over the time of the program. And in this case, the thought is MC Test Assembly did bring a significant amount of personal property that was previously taxed and went to the city of Palm Bay. That actually was new revenue to the city. So those last 2 years, the city received approximately $25,000 annually from that new personal property tax. So, we have retained some jobs. They have brought additional property tax into the city. It's not new to the county necessarily, but it is new to the city because previously it was in the city of Palm Bay. So it was based on that. And in previous discussions with previous councils, staff hadn't really been given that direction that you would want to recoup that. But if that is the case, we can definitely follow that direction.
I was just curious, if there was a precedent y'all following there or not. So, but that's interesting. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Lopez.
I wanted to know how much revenue did the city lose out on this tax exemption for that period of time?
There's a chart at the back of the annual report. Let me see where is mine. And it's in the range of, about $66,000 over the last 2 years. Now, that would have been in the real property tax. And as I just pointed out, the personal property tax gain to the city was about $25,000 per year. So we've granted back $66,000, but new income to the city was approximately $50,000.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Let's see this. Let's go back. All right. I don't have any, no sign-up sheets. All right. So I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council. What is your pleasure? Item 20, ordinance number 2018-25.
Mayor,
Yeah, Ms. Lopez.
approval of ordinance number 2018-25.
Second.
I have a motion for approval of ordinance number 2018-25 by Ms. Lopez, second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. We are into D, petitions, remonstrances, and communications. And I think we have one.
Thank you, Mayor. So the American Legion Post 81, they're the organizer of the annual Memorial Day Parade. They submitted an application to our office for this year's parade on April 27th, and the due date based in city code was 2 months earlier in February. And this usually happens each year with the American Legion Post 81. So I reached out this year and I talked to the commander and I gave him just some ideas for next year so that they could meet that deadline, including maybe having a few members of the command staff schedule it in their smartphones so that everybody gets an alert that goes off at the same time. He was really receptive and said that he's taken steps to make sure that they meet the deadline this year. We did route the application to the reviewing departments, and it is the city's intent to issue a permit for the annual Memorial Day Parade. But because this application was submitted beyond the limits of what we can consider an administrative waiver, usually if an applicant misses a deadline by a few days, we'll process it and then we just report it to you in the monthly activity report. I'm seeking approval from City Council, and you can see on your screen there on your monitor the very bottom paragraph. So I'm seeking authorization from City Council, please, for this application.
All right, council, what is your pleasure?
Madam Mayor, I'll make the motion.
All right,
And
Mr.
I'll
Thomas?
second. And I'll
it was-
second.
All right. It was approved by Mr. Thomas for the city clerk to process the special activity application, and it was seconded by
Yes.
Vice Mayor Minus.
Okay.
All right, discussion? Yeah, Ms. Vice Mayor?
May I just make a correction? I said so moved, but you,
I heard
Mr. Thomas. And then it was seconded by Mr. Alfrey. I tried to move it, but I didn't second it.
Okay, I guess I heard you after Mr. Thomas. Was that
Okay.
not, was that? I don't know,
Okay.
that's what I.
It happens to me all the time.
All right.
I'm talking about me.
All right, so did anybody hear?
I think what happened was she was trying to move it be the first.
Right.
Yeah.
And she didn't actually second it, and
Yeah.
Mr. Alfrey
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't
But
hear you,
Mr.
Ms. Bunn.
Thomas.
He
made
did
the
move
motion.
it. He moved
Yeah.
it, yeah.
Okay. So I have a motion by Mr. Thomas and second by Mr. Alfrey. Discussion? All right, seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and I vote aye, and the motion passes. All right.
I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure, we had the clarification there for the minutes.
Okay.
Okay, for our official records.
All right, very good. Any other comments or petitions?
No,
I do-
Madam Mayor?
Mayor,
Oh,
All
go ahead,
right.
Ms. Lopez.
I wanted to congratulate the Melbourne Fire Department Honor Guards for getting an award for their new uniforms.
All right, very good.
And-
Mr. Alfrey?
I was just going to bring up on the Royal Road I know there's been a lot of, back and forth on what they're going to do. They're going to shrink it. They're going to make it, they're not. It should come out really next month, but I kind of already stressed on that they're just going to repave it and it's going to stay 4 lanes. I will tell you that They were looking to get a new bicycle walk path on the north side. They're looking at, it would be extensive stormwater improvement at about 30 million. So they decided to just go ahead and repave it and do some work at Wickham and Aurora and such when it comes to pedestrians. So I just wanted to, I kind of brought that up a little bit, kind of glad as, you know,
Yeah.
just want to bring that up.
Yeah, that project is not going in front of the Space Coast TPO till
July.
Yeah, in July.
Yes, ma'am. July,
That's
yes.
right.
Mayor.
Okay, Ms. Thomas.
I would just like to say that myself and Mr. Alfrey and Vice Mayor Minus, that we went to West Shore a little over a week ago, and the students there have to do their presentations. They're the seniors, and they have to do that, and they go in front of a lot of community people, and it's got to be difficult for them. But I have to tell you, these presentations are amazing. I mean, they make the rest of us look shameful. I mean, they are extremely brilliant, extremely smart, and I was very proud to be able to be there and to be able to see the different projects that they were able to put together. I also wanted to give a shout out for our National Prayer Day. We do that every year out here in front of City Hall by our flagpole. This year, actually, we did it a little further in the parking lot. But we had a great turnout of the community, not only of our pastors, but of our citizens that came out and did National Prayer Day, and it was very moving and a beautiful event. And one last thing, Jaren Eisenberg, she is the director of Melbourne Main Street. She has been in the process of collecting funds through our Food and Wine Fest and through other things that she's had going on downtown to put lights in, better lighting into downtown. And we had the tree lighting, and the mayor was the person who flipped the switch. But for the tree that is on the west side entering into downtown, and it's beautiful. It's blue, so it represents our colors here at the city, and it's beautiful. And we're hoping with time, you know, collecting a little more money over there, that they can maybe make that go down all the way east towards US 1 and really light up downtown. So that's it.
All right, very good.
Mayor?
Yeah, Vice Mayor Minus.
Hey, just a couple of things. First, the Police Community Relations Council meeting has been relocated from Carver Park to the dock, the Dorcas Outreach Center for Kids, 1149 Masterson Avenue, due to some work that's being done at Carver Park. So it will be at the dock. And I want to thank Ms. Lynn Brockwell-Carey, you know, for just definitely opening up her arms in the teen center. So we're going to be teens again on Thursday at the dock. Also, I want to just say that Councilmember Betty Moore and I attended the Reginald Lee Johnson Memorial Scholarship banquet that was held at the Hilton. And Reginald Lee Johnson, if I may just elaborate just a quick second, Reginald Lee Johnson was a young student at who went to school at Satellite High School, Satellite Beach High School, and he went to West Point. A couple of weeks before he was to graduate at West Point, it was a tragic accident where he drowned. And this scholarship is held in his honor every year. It's been almost 30 years now. And this organization has given over $4 million in scholarships to students in Brevard County. So it doesn't matter what school you go to, they they can receive a scholarship. And Eastern Florida State College is just dynamic and assisting and partnering with Reginald Lee Johnson. It's just dynamic, just heartwarming to see. I think it was about 30 kids Sunday who received scholarships to wherever school they're going. Biomedical students, biomedical engineering students. It was just heartwarming to see those 30-some kids to get a scholarship on the school of their choice.
Very good.
Madam Mayor, quick question.
Yeah, Mr. Thomas.
Ma'am, when did Mr. Johnson pass? When was his accident? Do you remember?
I don't know offhand, but
I think it was the early 90s. The Johnson family, Mr. Eugene C. Johnson is his father, and his wife Ionia. They still live on Satellite Beach now, but it was just tragic. It was 2 weeks before he graduated where he had this, he drowned. Very outstanding student, everything. So the community rally around.
Next
And,
year, if I'm not in school, I'd love to be able to try to come out and attend that. Was it on a weekend or was it during the week?
It was Sunday, as a matter of fact. The city clerk received information, I believe, to disseminate to, and
I just missed
for
it.
us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
But yeah,
That's fantastic.
it's awesome. You would love to attend.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so I want to make an announcement on the Mayor's Challenge Award. I accepted this award. We were in 11th place.
11.
We did increase our total minutes about probably 11% compared to last year. And the city that did get the award was the city of Cocoa Beach. So I want to congratulate Mayor Ben Malik for that. So it was really fun. We're going to continue it next year. So here's the plaque. So we will do it next year.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
we're gonna have the mayor's challenge coming up on the golf course.
Yeah.
So
We're going to work on that one. All right. Anything else? All right. So nothing else? We'll adjourn the meeting at 7:50. All right. Thank you very much.